Hello, everyone. I hope you're enjoying your first day of the Peace Studio Summit, Peace in Action. I'm thrilled to be joined today by two extraordinary dancers, Helga Paris Morales and Audrey Malek. They're with the Washington Ballet, and we are honored to have them here today. Before we dive into our conversation today, I'm happy to share two exclusive performances inspired by each dancer's own individual exploration and expression. Let's sit back and enjoy these amazing performances.
Hello, my name is Helga Paris Morales, and we are here in my island of Puerto Rico. We will be performing for you today a bomba piece choreographed and directed by Elia Cortes and the Tamboricua production company. The piece is an original work of music directed and produced by Gabriel Olive. Bomba is a very special dance to Puerto Rico because it's Puerto Rico's oldest folklore dance and music style. Thank you to the Peace Summit and the Peace Studio for making space for authenticity through dance. This performance piece is very special, and it is a bomba piece fused with modern improvisation. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you enjoy.
Hi, my name is Audrey Malek. I'm a dancer with the Washington Ballet, and I am filming this piece from my apartment in Washington, D.C. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you guys for those amazing performances. We are so honored and privileged to witness greatness in action and to see two amazing women of color thriving in an artistic and creative space, especially in the world of ballet and contemporary dance. So we thank you not only for your talents, but your vulnerability and excellence in your craft. It is a true honor to see you guys move. I'd like to segue into some questions and to get your thoughts on the world of ballet and contemporary dance today. So while it's clear that you're both passionate about ballet and dance at large, I know it hasn't come without its challenges, especially being women of color in this sort of artistic space. Audrey, you've spoken about the history and the restrictiveness of gender roles within choreography. What are some examples of gender roles that are prevalent today? And how do you think it's possible for our industry to dismantle?
I think a lot of it starts with the beginning of the day, which is class. Before every rehearsal, we'll have a technique class for about an hour and a half. And up until recently, a lot of classical ballet teachers have given combinations, sometimes like one type of combination for men and another one for women. And I think in dance, especially in this day and age, dancers have to be able to do like almost anything and be versatile. And I think it's restrictive if like, oh, only a guy is practicing a double tour or something, and the ladies just kind of do a jump and run off. So I think these days, our director has been very open with saying like this is an alternate combination, so like not putting a label to it, which I'm very happy about. But yeah, I think that is one of the sole issues. And also choreographers not expanding roles to be female identifying dancers partnering with another female identifying dancer. There tends to be same gender partnering sometimes in neoclassical or contemporary, but it tends to be with men. So I think that's another issue that is slowly evolving. I don't know if that answered the question, but
Definitely, because in society, our gender roles at large and what we assign to women versus men is changing. So I think as a community and as a collective, the way we see gender roles evolving in society will eventually trickle down to dance as well. And I know that discussion tags on to our bodies and body dysmorphia. It's in ballet, you don't want certain muscles built, and it's based around the construct of somebody else's perception on what is attractive in a female body. So I know we're working against those issues as well. It's amazing to hear you guys speak, because I know as women of color, the standard of our body in comparison to other women in the ballet space is held to a very different regard. I don't know, Helga, if you could elaborate on that, about how the bodies of women of color versus women in different space are treated in ballet.
Yeah, I think it's such a complicated answer because it's such a complicated topic, right? So ballet in general has this very intense regime of almost looking at a person as an entity and not as a person, almost, you know, like you are a work of art, you're like a working bee, right? So in a way it takes the personalization and in many ways the human aspect of what it is to be a dancer. And so of course, in general, they look at bodies like, you know, like a body and not like the whole person. And so it's when you look at it as a cultural whole, not necessarily depending on the organization you're in. People have different practices, people relate to this topic differently. but definitely, especially as a woman of color, especially as a Black woman, society already has those like pre prejudices, essentially, of what is a feminine body supposed to look like, and what is a feminine ballet dancer body supposed to look like. But I will say that there's so many great things happening in the ballet world and in the dance community at large and in the world. Like, there's this new generation of dancers that just are so far removed from that old world mentality that it's just so beyond our it's not intrinsically a part of who we are, those old concepts. And therefore, it's beautiful to see how we are adapting and kind of implementing this evolutionary aspect of what dance is becoming. And it's really exciting to see. So, yeah.
Thank you, Helga. I know we are working on decolonizing ourselves as individuals, and in the classroom, it stretches so far beyond dance, and it's a change of the people. I know you introduced a campaign to benefit Brown Girls Do Ballet, a global nonprofit to increase the number of dancers from underrepresented communities in ballet around the world. How do you see institutional racism and decolonizing those spaces affect ballet and programs around the world in terms of access to funding?
Yeah, I think everything's aligned when it comes to these topics. So, you know, art is a reflection of life, is a reflection of art, you know, in many ways. So at a business aspect, when you look at the dance world in a business point of view, I'm not a businesswoman, but I've been in this industry my whole life, right? So you see how businesses change depending on the needs of the people, right?
Yes.
Governments change depending on the needs of the people. And this is a whole new people, that is a whole new mind, that is a whole new collective consciousness that is occurring in this world right now, which is so beautiful to see. And so I think it starts with the little things. Which businesses are your ballet company supporting? Which businesses are supporting the ballet company, you know, putting funds into this ballet company? That affects the decisions made in this space. That affects how people interact with each other, how the artists themselves interact with the community, essentially. So when we talk about politics, when we talk about things that are happening behind closed doors, a lot of the times I feel like these are the types of details that people tend to not overlook, that tend to overlook. And this is like, actually, this is the meal right there. This is what's actually happening. When I think of it in a social way, just interpersonal connections and how things are changing, you do see different sides of people's belief systems in these arts communities, you know, which is actually, I feel like people don't expect this because these communities are already so small, the arts communities, and then you look at the ballet world and it's so small, like, oh, everyone must think the same. No, we don't. A lot of us don't think the same. And this is a global thing. And there's so many different people that you have some people that look at ballet as this beautiful tradition that is a part of their culture, right? And that has been passed down to them, and they want to keep it exactly for what it is, and might not have the cultural or social they might not have the social they don't understand, they don't go through the same type of racism, they don't go through the same type of issues that other countries might, especially in the United States of America. So it's complex, but it starts with you. It starts with who you interact with and how you communicate with others and how you interact with your own company and what you advocate for.
I love that. And I'm sure you can both attest to the fact that most people think this issue is centered around us getting the appropriate tights colors, us getting appropriate shoe colors. They don't realize it's only one fraction of the equation. It's like, you can have the tights, but where are we performing? Are we receiving the same equity? Do we have the same stage? I'm glad we're inserting this into the discussion. Curtailing to you, Audrey, what does support look like in the ballet world, and how can people on the outside, meaning audience members, fans, and larger institutions, promote inclusivity?
That's sort of complex. I think that I don't have much to say. I think actions speak louder than words. I think there's this past year there's been a lot of performative activism, and like kind of Elga said, it really starts with you. You know, it starts with the people in leadership, if they're willing to make that change. And like, I don't know, I think there are some people higher up in other institutions that think that if they make this step, like they're gonna lose supporters and like it's not gonna work. And I think now, like, that shouldn't matter too much, because things will work out in the end. And you know, you have to do what's right. And like, if these dancers and companies are being like, oh well, I'm a woman of color in this company but I don't feel valued, then there's an issue there. So yeah.
I love it. It's oftentimes to us more simple and understandable, and a lot of it is so internal and so deep. Question on a personal level, how has your inner rehearsal spaces changed for the better in the last 2 years?
I would say that there's more conversation and people are more cautious about, or yeah, I guess paying more attention to individuals. And I guess I can span this memory to like years and years and years and years. Like back when I was in high school, I remember doing a dance competition. And mind you, I was doing Grandpa Classique, which is probably one of the most classical variations to do. And I got first place. And I remember this white woman came up to me as she was giving my award. She was like, you know what? If you don't go to Ailey, like they're really missing out. And if she knew any better, contemporary is not my strong suit, A, and B, throughout that whole competition, all I did was classical ballet. And I think it was because, oh, they see like someone with brown skin and like a musculature, I must be good at contemporary, right? And I think I've noticed that I grew up doing like competitive dance. I went to like, you know, schools that weren't super classical. So out of the few years that I have been in that sort of environment, I've realized like the toxic environments that can occur, and going to summer programs and being like, oh wow, it's very rigid, and like they look at Black people this way. And I don't wait, what was the question?
No, you're perfectly in line.
Okay.
And I think segueing to the idea that all Black people are contemporary dancers or don't fit into the mold of a classic dancer. It's that kind of racist language is anti-inclusivity. And even I noticed anytime a dancer is inserted into a different space, all of a sudden they use words like contemporary, modernizing, as if what we're bringing doesn't fit into their mold. Helga, I'm curious how the spaces in your world have changed in the last 2 years with all this social justice and movements.
I agree with Audrey. It's a complicated answer. Yes, there is more conversation. I would say that this is going to sound harsh, but it's true. I also get a sense of cynicism almost from some people, simply because I feel like people don't really realize that there are other realities beyond their own, right? And they don't understand what it is to be someone who is truly a minority in the space in which they're in, historically speaking, because ballet was never made for people of color. It was never meant for that. But we don't talk about this anymore because it is a technique, and we apply that technique, and anyone can apply that technique if they practice and if they're dedicated and if they have good training, right? But you don't think about that. And like when we're talking about body types, oh my God, why do we talk about that all the time? It's almost as if people expect Black people to be a whole different race of a whole, we're all human beings. We're just different phenotypes. And it's so frustrating to have that expectation of what a Black body is supposed to look like in a dance. It's so frustrating because you don't look at a ripped white woman and think, oh man, like it's because she's masculine. No, you look at a really strong ballet dancer who's white and you're like, yeah, she looks like a strong ballet dancer. And you look at the calves of a Black woman who's just as strong, and there's just an extra detail about it that like is no longer about what this person does and the hard work that they put into the art form, and it has somehow something to do with something that has nothing to do with their control. It's just like now a race thing. So I have this dual push and pull of we're gonna keep experiencing racism as we keep talking about it and keep living our lives in the past and in this pain. But at the same time, these things need to be talked about in order for us to move forward, you know? So I have this weird push and pull. We had this situation once where and they do this with good intention, but we were asked, as things are trying to change and be more inclusive, somebody asked me from the company how I identified, if I identified as a Puerto Rican, as a Latina woman, or if I identified as a Black woman. And I found the question so preposterous and so ignorant, because one is not the other, you know? And ethnicity and race are two different things. And why does it even matter? I'm a member of this company, you know, like it doesn't matter how I identify. I identify as the dancer that I came here to do my job for. So that's what I have to say about it.
Totally. It's taking this box and really not allowing people to further put us in this box and be defined by the parameters of their own mind. Curtailing. Yes, Audrey.
Oh, I just wanted to add something to what I previously said, because I lost my train of thought. But I think over the past couple years, it has gotten better in terms of conversation and people really looking past skin color in terms of ability and you know, there was an issue I had for a while with like being called like other Black dancers names when like, you know, yeah, like none of us look the same. So I feel like now like and this has been like, again, like not like the past 5-6 years, but like growing up, like if there was, you know, one other Black, because I grew up in an all-white school, if there was another Black kid in the school, they were like, oh, is that person your brother? Or they'd like mix our names up, you know? And I think now it's like, you know, directors, teachers are going, this is not okay, and this should be like a work environment where we have to look at these people as people. And I think that they're consciously making a change.
I love that. And in summary, it's like the age old saying, we all don't know each other. Like, we are all not the same. I don't know her technique, she doesn't know mine. And it's really understanding and viewing Black people as individuals that will help change where we are today. Curtailing to our final question, as much pain and as much obstacles are as there are on the road to becoming a professional and maintaining a professional career, what hope do you have for ballet and what keeps you going?
I hope that eventually like ballet will reflect modern society and that it'll be more open to everybody because I still feel like it's very much closed off. Like they a lot of places try and do like outreach programs and stuff, but don't advocate about it the correct way. And also in terms of, you know, seeing same-sex relationships. This is a part of society. You know, we're no longer living, you know, in the 1800s where you can't see couples like that on the street. Like it's normalized, especially here in DC. So when creating new works, we need to see something that reflects how it's like today. You know, it's no longer, oh, some like 16-year-old girl like falls in love with this grown man that like cheated on her or something. It's not, you know, like that's not realistic, that's illegal. So now, you know, there's just a lot people need to expand their creativity in their minds and realize that this is a new age.
I think that I agree a lot with what Audrey is saying. I'm sorry, I have family members that just walked in. But I think ballet as a business has to change. I don't think that nonprofit ballet companies in the future will be sustainable. I think if once the business model of what the arts today, the performing arts are, kind of become more independent in the future, and 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 dancers themselves have a lot more value to society and to the arts and realms in terms of monetary value, because it's the truth, you know. Then we're going to start to see a real change. We're going to start to see the collaborations of the ballet technique and other art forms as what we're hoping, you know. And it's happening now. It's just it just takes a lot of time. I think that there's classical ballet and then there's ballet, you know. Classical ballet will always be classical ballet. That will never change. It's been like 500 plus years. It's been like 800 years, like literally. That's never going to change. And I think that we need to as people of color, we should not try to force that to change, because it won't. That is a different space. We are creating our own space. We're creating new spaces. We're creating different spaces. That's all. It's just different. It's just changing. And so that's what I am really excited to see in the future, for sure.
It's definitely been an honor talking with you both today. And I know we are literally scratching the surface of a much grander discussion. And I think as a whole, as artists, there's so much of creating our own table versus forcing ourselves into tables that don't want us to sit with them. And you've both inspired me, and it's been a privilege to see your work. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. For everyone watching, please stick around for our upcoming panel on the art of reflection, where artists and journalists will discuss how a reflective practice helps them better contribute to society.